Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis. And before I introduce my guest, I'd like to remind everyone that you need to support what you love and you need to financially support what you love, whether that is this show, my guest's comic, or corporate media. I personally do not care. If you like it, you should be supporting it and buying it. And also, towards the end of October, my comic book class is coming out, but I will give everybody more information about that when it is official. So just be on the lookout for that. Follow me on social media and you will be notified. But beyond that, I would like to bring on my guest because I have legendary writer and comic creator Pat Shan. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me back. Andrew,
Yeah.
the Investor Davis, Pop Anime Comics.
Yes, that is me. I like money and money's fun, but I just want to give everybody a heads up that we will not be talking about Gretel or Darius throughout this entire interview. And if you know why we're not talking about that, you know why. Otherwise, everything else is fair game. But all things beyond that is fair game. And in particular, what I want to talk about is Destiny New York, because you are funded. You're killing it with Destiny New York. You're slaying on Kickstarter, and Volume 6 is right now out. And so, what is the basic premise of Destiny New York for people who have no idea what this series is?
Got you. The basic premise: it is a world where magic is real and commonplace. We follow Logan McBride. She had a prophecy made about her when she was young. She completes her destiny when she's just 13. And when we meet her in the book, she's entering her 30s, trying to figure out life after destiny. So it's sort of, I pitched it as a child star metaphor, and it's at its core a romance between Logan and this character, Lilith, who is the last surviving daughter of a mystical mafia family.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and obviously this is
Yeah.
volume 6, and obviously
Yes.
Logan and Lilith have had a very on and off, very complicated relationship, and a lot of decisions have been made by both of them.
Yeah.
And obviously, really starting in volume 4, I feel we get those decisions. Volume 5 goes further into that, and then we're now at volume 6,
Yes.
and the past is sort of a ghost that never left. Is a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's very true, especially at volume 6. We find for the entire series, we've dealt with the idea that Lilith's past is this shadow that kind of looms over her, and she's embraced that. But now we see Logan's past catching up with her as well. Uh, Things about her prophecy that she thought were settled are becoming prominent in her life again, and she is on one path. Her ex is on another, and we're going to see if those can converge once again.
Yeah, and let's even get into this because
Yeah,
obviously a lot of seeds have been planted at this point. I feel like really starting in volume 4. And this is what is so interesting about you is that, and I think that people are, when they read, they're gonna be like, oh, I get why volume 4 was planted. I get what happened in volume 5. And then
yeah.
now, we're getting to that point and you can read this on multiple levels. So what is this like to start? I don't want to say you're wrapping up because I don't think it's far from over, but we're now making a hard left turn here and they're going to be going into a new direction and there's real consequences now. I mean, there was consequences before, but there's prison times on the table,
Right.
being called out for something. Obviously
Yeah.
everything you thought that you did is sort of a lie to some degree, and really kind of tackling that because it's such a prevalent issue in today's society.
Yes, let me see how I can phrase it. Volume 5 saw Lilith kind of double down on embracing her family's history. We saw her running from it her entire life, and then we saw her trying to sort of use her family's positioning as a way to protect her sister. And now she's fully embraced that life, and she sees no other way. And that is coming back to bite both her. Oh, that's my cat. He might come up. I'm not sure. He's begging for some attention. Yeah, both Lilith and Logan. They've made choices that have led them here, and there is fallout to be had. And the way that I approach these characters is that I do have a lot of stuff planned long term, but a lot of it also is what is coming naturally to me. There are moments that the characters kind of deviate from the long term vision, and that is what I feel makes them feel dynamic. Where I have my plan, but as I'm writing it, if a character wants to go and do something different, or it feels more natural for them to go in direction B instead of A that I planned, I'll totally do that. In fact, originally, volume 5 was supposed to sort of wrap the story that we're telling now, but I ended up wanting to spend more time with the characters as they were in 5, and to sort of play that story out for a longer period of time, and really delve into what this phase of their life means for them. So volume 6 really is about wrapping up where we've been and heading toward that next state where they're dealing with the consequences of their actions throughout, especially 4 through 5, but really the full series.
Yeah, because this is one of the things that I view, and obviously I'm probably going to pick it up depending on what my next paycheck looks like. Because I'm now really interested in where this is going from what I've read of it so far and what I haven't read,
Yeah.
and these characters are evolving. And it also started out in volume 1, where I viewed it very much as a relationship that was on the rocks and some bad blood needed to happen, but I viewed it as a love story to some degree, and
Oh,
also
yeah, yeah, for sure.
life,
Yeah.
as well, and kind of working through your problems. But as we went into volume 4 and into 5 and now into 6, clearly it's not a relationship on the rocks anymore. This is a complicated problem. And there's real things going on now, and real choices have to be made.
Yeah.
And it's super, super interesting. And this is one of the things that I really like about it, is that I think that if somebody comes in and the story, they think it's going to stay the same in, volume 1, it takes a pretty hard turn in volume 4, and I got a
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
6 is going to flip it upside down again.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think of the book in sort of, each volume does stand alone as a beginning, middle, and end. But I also think in terms of arcs. And for me, volume 1 and 2 were an arc together. 3 and 4 were an arc, and 5 and 6 are very much an arc that is really pushing the characters in a different direction that should still feel natural with what it's been. I want I look back on my life 6 years ago, and it's entirely different than it was now. And I want Destiny New York to feel like, when you're done reading it, when the entire series is done, I want it to feel like you've lived a life with Logan. And that I'll go back and I will I'll miss how the book was at certain states. Like there was a simplicity to volume 1 where it was a mystery, there were certain characters involved, and it was a bit lighter. And then, dude, he's going crazy right now. I'm not sure if you can pick it up, but the purrs are just shaking my entire body. But yeah, each book has a different vibe and covers a different era of the characters' lives. And right now, volume 5 was in this place of the characters all kind of not knowing what's next for them, not knowing who they are. There's this dream sequence that Lilith has in that book, an extended sort of I won't say if it's mystical, I won't say if it's just her imagination, just this extended sequence that I want to leave a bit mysterious, where she speaks to her sister or a version of her sister and says that she doesn't know who she is anymore and that she's scared. And volume 6 is sort of about the characters not finding their way back to who they are, but finding the new them, making choices that sort of settle them in to this life that they've chosen, this new path.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, I'm not going to push too hard into that, but one of the things that I like about Destiny New York is that it has evolved with you
Oh yeah.
as a writer. It has evolved in the times, I feel, because what is it, 5, 6 years old that you started this? Um,
Yeah, I started writing it about bro, he's so in the way. About 7.5 years ago is when I started to conceive it. And then it's been, bro, get down. It's been being published now for 6 years. But yeah, it's been it's been in my head and being written for quite a while. I mean, there are parts in social aspects too of volume 1 that were, in the conversation of life of people that I look back now and hey, stop. the fighting over here, dude. Um, I, I I look back now, and it's not dated in a bad way. It's just of the time. You know, the characters are experiencing things that were of 2015 on purpose. You know, and I love that we've seen that we've seen them grow. I mean, there's this one panel um back in volume 4. I remember seeing it and being struck with emotion. This character Joe Rollins, he started out as a sight gag. He started out as a Harry Potter joke. And sort of his character was the idea of what this book wasn't going to be. And every time I have a character like that has a point, that has like, oh, this character plays this role, my next step is to always subvert that. So with Joe, I was like, all right, so he's the joke, but now we develop him and take him in a direction that turns that joke into not just a gag, but into an actual character. So in volume 4, there was this panel of Joe looking in the mirror and seeing how he's become a man, and just knowing the trajectory of his arc and seeing him as a grown up, it made me emotional that I've gotten to tell this story for so many years. And it's been, I mean, it's been years since then now, too. You know, the characters have, Logan is in her mid 30s now. You know, we started, she was 29 in volume 1. And yeah, just being with these characters, and just the mode of telling a story that doesn't have a set ending, that I don't have to wrap it up by, say, issue 5, 10, 30. That has really informed how I write the story.
Yeah, to even go into that too. I mean, obviously, there's been some maturity with Logan,
Yeah.
and a year and a half, give or take. Um, and now maybe even longer than that. Now that I think about it, but
Yeah,
the,
yeah, for sure, yeah.
sorry. Something was not connecting in my head there when I was thinking about that. But it's been longer than that. But obviously, it's also been for you. And so, one of the things that I find in comics that's an issue right now is when you have stories that have been going on for 6 years or even 10 years. Sometimes the characters don't evolve
Right.
with them, and I think that's a lack. I mean, I think of a show called Ruby, where the show has evolved with its audience. So if
Yeah.
you came in on volume 1 and then a year later it got a little bit more mature. And then by volume 3 and 4 and 5, they had to start issuing warnings saying, hey, this is a mature show now.
Yeah.
So that they're on volume 8 or season 8, and you come in when you're 13, you're now 21. So obviously now the show is more appropriate for your age. And I think it's a real skill when a writer and an art team and a comic does that. And what is that like for you? Because for me, if it remained the same for volume 1 to volume 6, and I'm gonna be very nice when it says I probably would have got bored with it. But the
Yeah, I
fact
mean,
that
you
it
should.
evolved,
Yeah, you should. Stories evolution, you know. There are characters, I mean, even characters like Batman and Superman, right? They have to go back to status quo, and they usually do at the end of someone's run as a writer. But even those, they are about affecting change in within that story. But with indie comics, with Destiny New York, you know, I could not imagine writing a story where everyone stays the same. I don't think that isn't character to me. That isn't really interesting, to have a set character who never changes, who never evolves. It 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 has to become a point of the character. Like, say we had a character who, no matter what, right, refused to grow. That becomes that character. But that should be an oddity in a world where people just exist. You know, I want, you know, I said it before, but I really want Destiny New York to feel like life, and people at a faster pace than I think a lot of people realize. We ourselves, we grow, we change, we really we aren't who we were 5 years ago. And that's what inspired the original sequence of titles of the volumes. Volume 1 is who I used to be, volume 2 is who I am now, and volume 3 is who I'm going to be. And it's all about looking back and not recognizing your past, not relating anymore to who you were when you were a teenager, who you were in your early 20s. And yeah, that is not only how I approach it, but it's a core theme of the title as well. And you have Raven Gregory in here, who just, I mean, he posted today maybe the single ugliest picture I've ever seen on Facebook. Uh he's lighting up your comments, dude. This fat fuck.
I have no comment. I'm just gonna take the fifth.
Yeah, dude, it's so fun. It's so funny. Like every joke that he makes about me is actually about him. He's talking about like getting fat when he's hit the first number of his weight has been not one, but two numbers higher than the highest I've ever hit this fat fuck. And two, he's talking about that maybe I need spray tan or testosterone. And meanwhile, this dude has needles full of testosterone, which exists in my body at his house. I could just mail him some blood from my manly body and he can go home and inject that shit because he has testosterone
I knew
actually
this
at his house.
I knew this was gonna happen. I just knew it. I just knew it.
This
That's
fat
the reason
fuck.
I'm like 2 months ago, and this is exactly how it went. He was talking about like some sea turtles or sea lions in the middle of the interview.
Yeah, the thing about this is like when Raven talks about me these days, like there was a time where Raven where he had a sharp wit, you know, but when he talks about me these days, it feels like a lesser version of things I've already said about him. So I don't really tune in when he talks about me. But no matter what, when I'm on live, Raven is there. Raven is there just trying to light me up. And it's unfortunately so unsuccessful, is what it is.
Hey, I'm just expecting an invitation to the wedding.
Oh, to me and Raven?
Hey, I'm just saying. I mean, we all know it's coming.
I don't know. I mean, that would be a rocky marriage, dude. That'd be a rocky marriage. We have Tom from Big Dog Inc. in the comments. Tom, hello. Unlike Raven, a respectable gentleman.
Exactly. So getting back to Destiny New York.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
This show, we're a professional fucking show here.
Yeah.
We don't fucking curse, nor do we make dick jokes or fart jokes on this show either. Clearly. So it's just the way we do things. But yeah, even going further into Destiny New York, I mean, what's so interesting about it is that obviously it's evolution, but I feel like you've taken it also into a whole nother realm because I'm a big trading card guy and you've taken it that way too. And that's sort of a really cool, I think. I don't want to say it's a dream, but it's merchandising it. It also is targeting a whole nother section, I feel, of a population where people love trading cards. Obviously, Zenoscope just had a very successful, trading card Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And how did even that come out? Because I know that you include some in your campaign. And I'm purposely avoiding volume 6 because a lot of stuff happens, guys, and I don't want to ruin that. I actually want people to go out and buy the volume. But how did this trading card stuff occur? Because it really is brilliant, I think, what you've done. I know you got a trading card game, and you throw promo cards in there.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant in so many ways and just on a collector's level.
Right, yes. It's for collectors first, and then we're building this promo card set. We're doing that is the Lilith secret rare that you can get through the Destiny New York Volume 6 campaign. There's no way to just get it. You have to just get any physical item, and it'll be randomly inserted into a small number of packages. That's by Kelsey Joe Silva. This is the free card that you get with any purchase. And yeah, they're all part of a promo set. It's a 36 card plus secret rare promo set that you can get through my Kickstarters, my event appearances, and my conventions, or on sales through my Etsy. And this is for collectors. And then next year, we're going to launch a Kickstarter for the Destiny New York trading card game starter decks. I think we're going to have between 2 and 4 decks. We aren't 100% set yet, but we will be doing those starter decks so we can actually turn it into a game and have people play. And those who are lucky enough to get the convention and promo cards before the starter set launches, those convention cards will have special bonuses in gameplay that you can actually use in a competitive game. And how this started was just, I love trading cards. I am a collector myself. I love Pokemon cards, Dragon Ball Super cards. And I thought that with the mechanics of the mythology of Destiny New York, that it would lend itself to a trading card game. I have toyed with other card games in the past, but when it came down to it, Destiny New York right now is the title that I kind of it's our universe. I have multiple titles within this series. There's the main series, and then there's spin-offs like Gangster S Barista, Smoke We See the Future. So we have this wide sort of nuanced world with all these rules and fantasy genres sort of at play intermingling in this universe. So it felt like it would be that a trading card game could be cool both from a collector's perspective with some beautiful art, including new art and art from the actual books, and as far as an actual fun game to sit down and play.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be very honest. I didn't even know. I knew there was something going on with the trading card game, but
Yeah,
that's not what interests me. Where I really like cool art. I like
yeah,
limited edition stuff. I like collectible cards. Obviously, I view them both as an asset and cool to have. I view it being part of a club to some degree when you have all this stuff,
yeah.
and I just think they're cool. And to be very honest, I mean, I like metal cards. I like trading cards. I'm not a big print guy because I can put a card in a binder and I can
I
look at
agree. I
it,
agree.
and
Yeah,
print for me just doesn't do it. And I like extra pages in books, but even still, like upgrading the cover, it's cool and all, but like I want something that almost creates like a memento of
yeah,
it. And then it's also only on the Kickstarter. And then if it has functionality, that's great. But I'm not so interested in the functionality. And so that's why I love it. And also, I feel like it attracts a different breed as well because there are
yeah.
people who only collect cards.
That's true. And in fact, on this campaign, my original idea was that I was going to do it where you had to just buy the book to get the card, but I added a tier with just the card just to see if people would want just the card. And that's becoming pretty popular. People are also just wanting the card, even though it's the Destiny New York trading card game. People who aren't reading the books are also still getting the card just because the art is so cool. Um, and yeah, you could definitely build a binder of this. The cards are all numbered. They go 1 through 36, and then we'll have 9 secret rares. So you'll be able to do
So
uh,
like this one right here is a secret rare.
right, yeah, that'll be 40 out of 36, and they'll go up to 45 out of 36. And then we'll do subsets for the promos and all that kind of stuff. Like we have this one card, because we're doing a sex convention for Exotica in New Jersey. That one is a bit spicier than the regular set. So we're gonna do a special promo set called Cheeky in New York that you could have gotten through the Cheeky campaign. And the promo card is also in that set, and that'll be available at Exotica, New Jersey.
Yeah, and then even going further into this because you did something very cool as well
Mm.
with this, and I know it's I guess a base card. I want to say is the way to describe it. If it's one numbered out of 36, is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
so? This card right here is fascinating, because obviously you're known for Xenoscope, and I think this is card 18 out of 36, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And
Something like
so, what was this like? Because this is the first time I think that you have a crossover with obviously Zenoscope on a card. I
that.
don't
Yeah.
know if you've done a crossover with another comic company. If you did, obviously then I take back the first one, but it's Robin Hood Van Helsing, very instrumental in Robin Hood, very instrumental in Van Helsing. And so, what was this like? Because I know this was up at Philly, but it was also available for purchase on Etsy. I know I have mine shipped out today. So,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
was this like? Because it's kind of cool when there's crossovers that make sense.
Yeah, it felt Zenoscope themselves have done this cosplay thing where they have, their characters cosplaying as any number of things. They've done pop culture icons, they've done cereal, they've done
Disney.
yeah, Disney countless cosplay covers. So I thought it would be a cool way to celebrate me appearing at Zenoscope VIP Philly to do this card of Logan and Taylor cosplaying as Robin and Van Helsing. It just seemed like such a natural fit because my main titles at Zenoscope were, I've had long runs on Grim and Charmed, but basically, I'd say if you ask someone what Pat is known for at Zenoscope, they probably say Robin and Van Helsing. So with those being my two flagships there, and Destiny and Smoke We See the Future being my flagships with my Kickstarter stuff now, with Space Between Entertainment, I thought it would be, it just felt natural to do it, and I've been wanting to work with Nia Ruffino too for a while now on something that I publish. And since she's done so much Zenescope, and she actually drew the first ever appearance of Van Helsing in interior art, she drew Unleash number 0, and it just felt so natural for it to happen, and it came out cool. It was a cool thing to have to actually give away at the VIP event, because normally at conventions I charge, but since VIP was all about Zenescope, I thought it would be cool to sell it online. But at the con, people pay to get into those things, the VIP meetups. So I had the card free, and it was cool to see the Zenescope fans kind of discover Destiny New York's through this card.
Yeah, and even to go further into that, because obviously, as I stated, Zenescope had their trading card Kickstarters. They started sending them out. Obviously, people got packs. I got my packs. I know you unboxed something live. I think you might have even done it at the con. I don't know if you did it at the con or before.
I did, yeah, I did.
But what was that like? Because I don't know if that was planned purposely or if it was a happy accident or if it just sort of happened. But it's kind of nice because people who back that Kickstarter have the binder from Zenescope. They have a bunch of cards already. And while this isn't a Zenescope card, it's Zenescope related, I think is a safe way to say it.
Absolutely.
Where it's not their card, but it's sort of their card. I'm not like, but it's kind of nice because now I'm going to put this in that binder and it's going to look cool next to all the other cards that I have and the cards that I'm getting in a few days from their, virtual VIP event.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was picturing, is that people who primarily collect the Zenescope cards, the best they could ask for would be to have them sort of include this in their collection as an honorary card. If they want to use it as a way to get into Destiny New York, cool. But I'm also completely content with it being just with those cards, because those cards are beautiful too. I myself am trying to build a full set. As someone who wrote a lot for, now I'm writing Van Helsing and a few titles here and there, but I've, from about 2012 to 2016, I wrote basically every character that existed in the Grim universe. And to see many of those characters appear on these cards, get the foil treatment, they just do cool things. The swimsuit cards have this beautiful rainbow foil. The characters are embossed over it. They have these lenticular cards. They have coal foil where the border is foil, and it's just cool. It's just really cool. And it's fun seeing them do this as I'm also doing the trading card game, because what we're doing is different. Their cards are like baseball card style, where they're the sharp edges, the squared off corners, and they don't make a game. They're for a collector's piece, which I really enjoy. And now on my side, I'm trying to make this game as well. I have Jeff Massey, who is an assistant editor for me, who fans of Zenescope actually may know him from, he wrote the Oz series, volumes 2 and 3 of Oz. And he's a great writer and he's a great mind. So he's working on building the mechanics while I work on the more collectible aspect of the card game.
Yeah, no, because I find it fascinating. And again, I mean, I view this more as art. I'm a trading card guy. I'm a big baseball card collector.
Yeah.
I unbox top Chrome cards and I love them.
Nice.
And I pulled something nice the other day. I pulled a Jeff McNeil card that was a purple parallel, super cool card. And I pulled I'm a big WWE guy too, and I pulled a 18 out of 49 card, which is super cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually figured out the trick to those. But again, I view it just as that. I didn't know there was actual functionality, and that's even better. I feel it's kind of like the NFT functionality thing, but we don't have to talk about crypto. I promise.
No, I mean, I don't care at all. If people are into it, cool. If people hate it, cool. I'm totally agnostic. People love to get mad at shit. Like right now, people are mad that Elon Musk is buying Twitter. The shit I think just went through or something 3 hours ago.
I don't even know what's going on. I didn't look at the news today. I actually have a job. I'm actually doing my job and making, somebody's life better at my job.
That's good. Let me just check on my cat. He's yowling. Stop it, dude. All right. All right.
As long as the cat's okay, that's all.
He's just doing some bullshit. All right.
Yeah, but even to go further into Destiny New York is because one of the things about the trading cards is that I think you have some other things too, which are these, um, and I think
Yeah,
these
yeah.
are available as well. And so obviously, if you're really into the trading card stuff,
Yeah.
that's out there, I think, as well.
Yes, we have those are the ones that you can get through a tier. The Cherry Gilbert is the free one. This is a tier of 3 cards. There's one holographic and 2 non-holos. And we're I also have the checklist right now. So people, if they want to, do the full set, can do that. Yeah. It is pretty exciting. Yeah, I've always been big on trading cards, collectibles, and to be able to have a series that I can do this for has been really cool.
Yeah, no, because I'm in the process of actually building out my own trading card set on something that is not comic book related,
What
and
is it?
it's on
Sports, yeah.
cocktails. It's on cocktails.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my mom wrote a cocktail book
Yeah.
that's published by a decent publisher,
Nice.
and I want to write the cocktail, or not write it, but I want to do trading cards where it's cool pictures of cocktails on one side, and then it's the recipes with a little history on the back.
That is cool. That's really cool.
And so I'm not too sure exactly, if every pack, I'm doing 5 cards in a pack and then seal it up, or if it should all be random, or if I should do a set of 20. But I'm still working that out. But the idea is a pretty cool one, and
Yeah.
it's actually not as expensive as people think it is.
2 make cards.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. If you know what you're doing to
Yeah.
some degree. Also, it's not horrible if you're doing, not big print runs.
Right. Yeah. We do with Destiny New York, each card has a different sort of set number. For the con cards, I have a certain number. For the Kickstarter ones, I usually go a lot higher. He is driving me crazy right now, dude. I'm not sure if you can hear him on this thing, but he's
A little bit, a little bit.
he's screaming his head off. Just so needy, dude. So needy. Hold on. It's bad. It's bad, dude. He's he was final day until I started doing this shit. Maybe he doesn't like you, dude.
I don't know. People hate me all the time. It's all right. They still haven't
No.
figured out how to take me out. All they have to do is just give me $1 and I'll leave.
No, yeah, he's the idea that he didn't get attention when he was over here is eating him alive, dude. But no, yeah, it's not, you know, printing anything in short run can be kind of expensive if you can mark up the prices, but I have had, thankfully that there's been enough good attention on what I'm doing here, that it makes it worth it, because I have to some of these cards I'm paying a lot out for the artist to do a beautiful new image. Some is older stuff that we're repurposing with new colors, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My project as far as art and stuff, that's not the hard part. It's legitly just structuring it and figuring
Yeah.
out the right direction, and also it's getting it into the right channel. Because if I get into the right channel with the right audience, and obviously I'm not targeting comic people, I want to target cocktail people and people who like weird cards and cards saying, "Oh, this is kind of cool and trippy." And also the idea is that getting it at a good price point is the
Right.
whole thing. Because if I only make $1 on every set, that's fine. Because my goal is to do set number 2 and set number 3, and then build that out, and then you get to the fun stuff. But again, I always wanted to do this, so, and I don't have a comic idea yet, so why not do it with something that I enjoy, which is alcohol.
Yeah.
And I happen to know a lot, and I have a pretty good idea on how to do this, but I'm not perfect. So, but that's neither here nor there. But getting back to even going further into this too, because one of the things about Destiny New York that is also cool about it is that the Kickstarter people get it first, but then it
Yeah.
gets broken up into single issues. And I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is one of the things that Black Mask doesn't change anything in.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't want the version on shelves to be any different from the version the Kickstarter backers have. I want, my entire idea is that this is the ultimate version of the story. I think it would be kind of lame to ask Kickstarter backers to fund a first version and then improve it later on. The I'm pulling out the stops here. I'm making version one, the version that everyone sees, the best that it could be from jump. And as far as like changes, editorial stuff, Black Mask knows that isn't on the table. They know that they can contribute varying covers if they want. We've done that. We brought some great artists in, like Terry Moore is a legend. To me, he's the greatest of all time as far as writer artist goes. And he did a cover for number one. We've had some great new Jensei Nanj covers. I know right now that Black Mask is gearing up to do some variants for stores for Gangster as Barista, which is a spinoff. But as far as changing anything on the inside, no, that was never going to be a thing. I am receptive to notes about new things, but as far as what's set in stone, those books to me are very, very, very much set in stone.
Because this is one of the things that I think is a pet peeve, at least to me, is that I back something on Kickstarter and then there's a sex scene and then it comes into a publisher onto comic shelves. And I understand that if there's like a nude variant that a publisher might say, look, we don't want the nude variant and we're going to just table that thing. I get that, and I think most people get that. But all of a sudden, you're going to censor a sex scene. It's kind of, I think like you're giving version A to the Kickstarter people, but then version B gets published and then it's something else. I think it's kind of a cop out.
Yeah, I could never do that. Hold on, let me stop him from going over the word. Stop it, buddy. Stop it. Come on. Come out there. Yeah, he's being worse than he's ever been for me doing a podcast tonight. But yeah, no, it's
I think it's disingenuous, and I think it hurts, the writer, it hurts the fan, and I even think it hurts the publisher when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, people do like the idea of like a special edition, but the truth is that I don't want to do any of that shit. If I ever do an ultimate edition, my idea would be to either, make an omnibus, maybe do it as hardcovers, or eventually, years and years and years later, do what The Walking Dead is doing and do a color version. But I would never just kickstart it and have my version and then just change it a bunch for Black Mask and single issues. That doesn't make sense to me. And it was interesting though, Destiny New York Volume 1 was a book about living in 2015, and it came out in I think 2021 in single issue. So it was almost as if it was a period piece, because life has changed a good amount since then in a couple of different ways. But yeah, no, it was there was never any temptation to change things. I like how it came out. The original version to me is the ultimate version.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I like about it too, is that reading it, and looking back, because I know certain references that are in there, and I think certain people, really appreciate that, and it's kind of nice to have that, looking back, and then be like, oh, this is from that period, and now we're also
right.
getting into here, and then we get sort of, oh, I remember where I was in 2015. I was just graduating college,
right?
So,
yeah.
Like, I read it a little bit differently maybe than somebody else because I was at a different point in my life.
Right. And it's fun too to have these sort of distinct errors. For example, what I mean is that I also do a lot of short stories, and I have these really distinct periods of these characters' lives that I can choose from to write in. Like, for example, I was compiling the short stories, the two color short stories that I was putting in my Destiny New York hardcover art book, which was celebrating our 5th anniversary. And I had one story already written, prepared for it that was, sort of set during volume 5, that time of Logan's life. And then I had to do a second one, and my thought was, what would be a fun period to look back on? And I thought about the year between volumes 1 and 2, about how Logan and Lilith grew as a couple in that year and how little of it we saw. I thought it would be cool to sort of like see a quiet moment between them and explore that period of time. And that's also why I like leaving stretches of time between volumes and having characters change between volumes, so that one, it's dynamic when you open a new volume and you sort of catch up with where they are, and two, it also leaves me fun times to explore it with short stories that I don't really have to commit a full volume to, but times that I can really mine for new ideas for short stories after the fact.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the things that a lot of writers don't get is that if you build and you invest and you really build out a world and you build out a concept, then
Yeah.
you hit a home run, for lack of a better word. And you sort of, I think the phrase is you step in shit, right? Like, do you really want to make a story that's so tight that you can't come back and do a one shot later on? And
Right.
even after you wrap something up, you can do a one shot. I'm a big anime fan, and One Piece is kind of like this, where One Piece does that with a lot of the movies is that they're almost one shots. A lot
Yeah.
of the One Piece movies, and they're fun because they don't have any canon. They fit into it. You could say their canon is just another adventure that the Straw Hat Crew is on, but it's also not committed. Where there's nothing that's going to be consequential to the main story, but you get another bite at the apple, I feel. And I think that some people write a little too tight in comics, and then you're
Yeah.
missing something. And it's kind of like, I think you have like a Halloween special coming out, right?
Yeah, that is made of two stories that were from my short story collection. So if you did the Kickstarter, you already have those. But one is a Halloween sort of rom com, and the other is a spookier story set at the school of prophecy kids. Um, but yeah, on what you were saying though about the endings, I'll say this: I do like to leave room to explore between volumes, but I'm very very big on endings. Um, and I kind of went back on that with Robin Hood. With Robin Hood, I gave what I thought of as a definitive ending, and then I went back to her in Grim Fairy Tales Apocalypse, which was sort of like I gave it an ending and I gave Grim an ending, and then I brought those two together for this one big event and sort of ended them both again. Um, with Destiny New York, I'm gonna write it for years to come. I'm gonna do spin-offs for years to come. But when I get to the ending, that is 100% it. Once the ending hits, I'm never going back. There will never be a new story. There'll never be a new spin-off. There won't be one new page. The end is going to be the end is the end. That is meaningful to me as far as, leaving off with my final statement about this character, these characters, and this world. That was always the intention.
That's interesting. I mean, if I write a book, I'm gonna die with the book. I'm probably gonna die with this show, to be very honest.
Yeah, I
Where
mean, no, so something should go forever, like if I mean, should they?
I mean, I'm gonna be dying with this show. I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah,
Where I'm in this for life. I mean, this is
yeah,
like a prison sentence for me. This is it, and I'm not saying it's gonna be 150 episodes every single year, but it's gonna be at least like 100 every year. And I don't want to give it up because I like it and I enjoy it, and I can't explain it. And if I write a comic series like if I was writing One Piece, I'm gonna keep it going forever because why wouldn't I? There's no good reason, in my opinion, to stop one of the greatest adventures, and that's what I want to write. I want to write a comic book adventure that just goes forever, and people
yeah,
are like, "This is awesome!" And man, every issue is just fun. And as long
right.
as she's reading it, and like I don't know, because if I, the whole thing is that as long as I'm having fun, and I don't think I'll ever
Yeah,
stop with this show having fun. There's no good
yeah,
reason to stop.
that makes sense. What I'll say is this: as far as like a good reason to stop, there is no good reason to stop in the version of that you said, where it's an adventure, you're having fun. Destiny New York isn't really. there's adventure elements in some ways, but it's a series about what it's like to live knowing that you're going to die. That's the main theme. So, I mean, it has the need for a definitive ending baked into the theme itself.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, I get
yeah,
that. I get
yeah,
that. My point is that like I
yeah,
just
yeah.
I don't like to end things. I'm bad at ending things because then I feel like I jip myself. Like for me, like I have an issue with closure. Like
No, I mean, I do too with closure, and that is kind of why I push myself toward ending things. I mean, for example, Prison Witch. Prison Witch definitively ends at volume 3, but I will say this: Prison Witch is a series that I don't feel that going back and doing a prequel series, like, we had this character Cat Lady, and I think that
I
Cat
love her.
Lady,
I love her.
yeah, I feel like she would be a good focus for a full graphic novel. I feel like she could support a full book. Um, like a flashback, like pre-prison, sort of like do it as if it's a true crime documentary about that character. I think that could be cool. Um, and the way that Prison Witch ends, that Cat Lady book would not interfere. It wouldn't really cheapen the ending. With Destiny New York, I would never want, like, say for example, this Smoke We See the Future exists in the same world as Destiny New York. I wouldn't want to end Destiny New York with, say, volume 11 and have people pick up Smoke Beats to the Future volume, I mean, 7, I'm guessing. Say that they pick up 7. I don't want them to read it and, like, look for clues about certain characters that are in the main title. I don't want them to sort of, like, you know, I'm not making a puzzle. I feel like a lot of people think that artsier endings and endings that sort of tie into an overall theme are puzzle endings. But what I'm interested in making an overall statement, and that statement to me the is me making good on my promise to readers that I made throughout the book, and that is to give an honest depiction of what it is that I think to live a life, to live this specific life, Logan's. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how we get to the end, when it happens. It does, the book has a way of expanding itself in my mind. I've always thought of number 11 as a possible stepping off point. Um, but if more stories that I feel like I have to tell within this world present themselves, I'll just hold off on the ending. Um, but yeah, yeah, I feel strongly about it.
Nah, that's interesting, and maybe it's because I haven't written something yet, or well, when I'm working out in my head in an outline, or I haven't published something yet, is a better, I think thing is that the way I like to write is that I mean, if I have a fun story and it's a blast, then I don't know, it's maybe I have a different thought process because I haven't created something yet and haven't put something out there, and
Yeah,
that's the whole thing, But again, I get it to some degree. I mean,
yeah,
it's nice when something ends. I'll say that
yeah.
because I hate to say this, but you've seen it and I've seen it. I mean, Seinfeld is a great example of that. The way Seinfeld ended, it was great because they were at their peak. Same thing with The Office, I feel, where they could have gone on technically, but they ended it, and I think they left at a high note. And
Mm.
same thing with Big Bang. They left at a high note, and there's something to be said because it also is the idea that I remember Seinfeld, The Office, and Big Bang as shows that didn't drag it out and ended right in the right moments.
It's important, and it's difficult, I imagine, to find the right moment, especially in TV. There's just so much more content than there is in comics. Comics is a much more, let's say, condensed type of storytelling, than TV is, where you can really, write these long scripts that come out every week for a full hour of TV. They just kind of breeze past. But yeah, no, I think to end things like you mentioned, The Office. The Office ended in a very satisfying way in that throughout the entire last season, it had a good finale. I'd say the entire last season was strong in how you could tell they were bringing everything together. They were tying up loose ends. They were really putting a bow on every character and putting them in position for the final story. Um, and then I look to, my inspirations are, the great TV shows of all time. Like 6 Feet Under has one of the best, if not the best, series finale of all time. The Sopranos, one of the best, if not the best. The Leftovers, beautiful grace note of a finale. Angel, also controversial, but an incredible ending to me. So I look to those and I look at how much of that series position in legacy is cemented by the ending. And I think too about everything ends, life ends. We won't be here forever. So I think that it's important to, give things an ending that rings true to what they were the whole time.
I also think that it's important, and unfortunately, I think some creators either don't get to do this or have a different viewpoint on it, that they die before their series ends. I mean, the manga Berserk is a really good example of that, where that manga artist slash creator died and the series will remain unfinished.
Yeah.
And it's a real issue. And then people are upset. And I don't think that they're not angry, I feel, but they're upset because they're like, hey, we want to know what happens next. And now we
Yeah.
won't know. And it's very frustrating, I think, when something doesn't end. And then that person dies with the series, and you're like, okay, cool. What's next here? And
Right.
what are we doing? And do we get an ending? Does somebody else take it over? Are there notes? Like, it's a real issue, I feel. And, as a fan, I feel gypped when that happens.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something, especially if I've been supporting a creator for 20 years and then all of a sudden something happens and I'm like, I've been buying your shit for 20 years. Like, I deserve an ending. I mean, I don't want to sound like I deserve anything, but like, if you're not well, then you should be responsible enough and I feel like treat your fans fairly at that
I
point.
mean,
It's tricky.
I've thought about things like that. I've thought about, say something happens to me. I had a friend of mine, Keith Thomas. He found out that he had pancreatic cancer, and I believe that he was doing this series on Kickstarter called Into the Suck, and the artist who was on the book ran the Kickstarters after he
You
passed.
need CB Zane.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe that Keith had really written ahead to. I'm not sure if he wrote ahead after he found out or before. I'm not sure, but that was it was cool to see someone take the reins when Keith no longer could run those. But at the same time, too, I thought about myself. I thought if that happened to me, where I am in Destiny, New York, um, my initial thought is, I would probably find a way to make the current volume that we're working on into a satisfying end. I probably had to make it a lot longer, but I would write it and I would give it to the team so that they could work on it while I'm gone. Um, and then on the other hand, I also think things like, I totally get why you would, and maybe I would, but it's also the end of your life. If you're aware of it, especially, are you going to choose to work even 1 second more? For me, maybe because it's more than work for me. It's also my artistic expression. It's what I'm leaving behind. But I also get someone who would kind of, if they heard that they were dying, might want to sort of divorce themselves from any more work at all and just live the rest of their days in whatever peace that they can find.
It's so interesting, and obviously, I don't know. I think it goes either way. I mean, there are people, Osamu Tezuka, who's basically the godfather of manga. Basically, on his deathbed, he said, "Please let me work."
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's a quote that stays with me. I'm a big Osamu Tezuka fan, and it stays with me where it's like the guy just wanted to create manga because he found so much love for it, and he
Yeah.
wanted to finish the story. And it's crazy for me. And it's kind of like with me. I mean, I don't know if I was asked that question how I would be on this show. I mean,
Yeah.
I might find like I might go on a last 10 interview hoorah of my last 10 greatest interviews and go through my bucket list, and I run down it, and I think it'd be a fun time. I
I
think
mean,
it's
that would be crazy, the death stream, you know?
yeah, it's the countdown.
Yeah.
But this is a morbid conversation in so many ways.
No, I mean, it is morbid, and also a thought I have is this too. Like, listen, I love the idea. It warms my heart that people buy the book and read the book. I have usually I'll hear back a bit. I'm sending volume 5 now. Well, I've completed sending volume 5, and I'm now sending the rest of Smoke Weeds to the Future tonight. And I have gotten more reactions from this book in DMs than I've gotten from any previous volume. And it's cool to see, and it moves me. And I mean, dude, there was one night where I was not having a good night, and I hadn't been sleeping much because I've been packing so much, and I was up late on only a few hours of sleep. My body physically hurt from picking up and dragging around all these boxes up down the stairs to the post office, and I was feeling not at my best. And I got this message that someone, I won't say too much about what it says, but they talked about the way that volume 5 ends. It ends with this letter from Lilith to Logan, and they talked about how the letter made them cry and how the volume made them emotional. And as I read that, I was feeling frustrated from packing all these books and feeling worn out, and it just really built me up. It made me feel like what I was doing was really worth something, and that it had an impact on people. And at the same time, though, if I knew that I was in my final days and I was working on the final volume of Destiny New York, just prepping it for readers, I would feel so fucking jealous that I would never get to read it with the art. That I wouldn't see it lettered. I wouldn't hold it in my hand and see it printed, because as much it's beautiful, it's the best feeling in the world that someone reads it and enjoys it. But at the very core, and this is why it's good. This is why people like it. I do it for me. The book exists because I want it to exist, because I need the story out there in the world. And that, there's no better day in my year than when the next volume of that specific story comes. So the idea that I would leave this world and other people would hold the final volume and not me, it would be conflicting. It would be very emotional for me in a good way, but I would also be jealous as fuck.
See that's interesting. That's so interesting, because I mean the way I feel about my show is that I'll be pissed off that I reach out to somebody, they don't get back to me, and then I pass on, and then I don't get to give that person an opportunity. I don't get to speak to them. I don't get to engage, and somebody doesn't get to see an interview that I do, and that opportunity doesn't get shared. And there's been circumstances where people have passed away, that I didn't get, and
Yeah.
it was scheduled, and I'm like, fuck. And then also, I recognize that Howard Cruz and Denny O'Neil were on this show.
Yeah.
Both of them are no longer with us. And, it's also a very powerful thing when you have somebody who is no longer with us and you're interviewing them. And then there's some older people, obviously, still around
Yeah.
who have been on this show. And, it's super interesting. And it's just like, to say that I interviewed Howard Cruz or Denny O'Neil for my audience would be a lie. I did it because I wanted both of them on, and it was a selfish thing.
Of course, and so much of art is from that. But you also you've had Raven Gregory on your show, right?
Twice.
And I mean, it's only a matter of time for him, dude. So
it's horrible. It's just horrible.
Yeah,
I feel like I have to get him some like Mary Jane now.
yeah, yeah,
Even backing out of this and going into a much nicer and potentially worse conversation point,
sure.
let's talk about thirsty and cheeky because that kind of
Yeah,
map. I feel like that gave you had almost Main Street cred. I felt at that point before these, and then you got a lot of indie cred, and like that's what makes you so interesting because was it thirsty or was it cheeky that did over like 100K?
that was cheeky. Yeah, Thirsty was my biggest campaign until Cheeky, and then Cheeky blew out of the water. Cheeky is it
It
was
was a
insane.
runaway train, is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and it didn't do it. It didn't do it in a traditional way. Normally on Kickstarter, your day one is a good indicator of what the campaign's going to be, and Cheeky had a good day one. It didn't have it. It didn't have a day one that put in my head that we would hit $103,000. Not even close. Um, it was as if Cheeky was 31 day ones in a row. Every single time, every day brought a new surprise. It was a mind blowing campaign. It's because people like sexy comic books. People like stories about sex. They feel I mean, just look at Step and Sieg's Sunstone.
I
That
mean,
is
I'll throw it this way: it's almost like a topic that nobody feels comfortable talking about, but we all want to read about it so that we feel comfortable in our heads.
yeah, and it's an
I may or may
underserved
not have some
audience.
insight into this theory.
What was that?
I may or may not have some insight into all of
Oh
this.
yeah,
I've had some very interesting interviews. So let's just leave it at that. I had Santine Phoenix on.
mm.
I've had Shelby Paris has been on. Samantha Mack has been on my show. And then several Raven Ray has been on my show. Uh,
What is their profession?
um, Santine was in porn. Shelby is in porn. Samantha Mack's in porn.
Gotcha.
Raven
Porn,
Ray's a
porn, porn.
mistress.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah, maybe I'll see them at Exotica. Pat
uh,
Shan, Space Between Entertainment, Exotica, New Jersey, in 2 weeks from now. Then at Baltimore Comic Con.
it's complicated that topic because
Yeah.
we're all kinky. We're all kinky. I mean, there's no question about it. What
Well,
we're
I
in,
mean, it depends what you mean by kinky. Some
you muted yourself.
oh my bad. Yeah, it depends what you mean by kinky. Some people have a cast a wide net for kinky.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
We all have fantasies.
Yeah. And that's part of a major part of what goes into cheeky and thirsty. I look at I talked about this before too, but if you go to a bookstore, the most dominant genre in all of prose fiction is romance. It is the most active wing of publishing, period. And comics, what wants to do fucking superheroes as that's it works because comics is a visual medium. People like this kind of story. It's comics specific, but how there are not more stories about romance and sex in comics blows my mind. I was talking about Step and Siege. Let me just paint a picture of how successful Sunstone is. Sunstone is online for free. Number one. Number two, at the same time as you can get it for free, Sunstone became Top Cow's best-selling book of all time after years of Witchblade, all these well-known IPs. And I mean, I think what millions of copies it sold, at least 1 million. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Matt Hawkins spoke about this.
Yeah, it speaks to
Crazy.
how underserved the audience is, how this audience exists not only in prose, not only in comics, but in every field. People want stories like this that aren't ashamed of sex, that depict sex not as
Taboo.
the end goal. Like so much to me, what separates this from what you would just, call a regular porn story is that so many of those stories use sex as the end goal. There's setup, there's sex. Setup, sex. My thought was, no, do it like a story. Treat it like a fantasy story. Treat it like an action story. The sex is part of it. At the core, you have characters. The characters are going through something, and that something happens to surround sex in some way. But treating sex as the goal is always sort of the opposite of what we do. We approach it from the inside out.
Yeah, yeah. It's like Hotel Erotica with Candice Michelle, where it treats it, much more like a story. Now, sex is sort of the end goal a little bit, but it's, as the name says, it's Hotel Erotica, and it's a brilliant, brilliant, like 6 episodes where it's
Mm.
sort of softcore porn, and it's really just well done to that idea where there's more of a story and there's more elements into it, and it's not shot like a hardcore porn.
That
But
must be a hard job, the softcore porn, to depict the act but not show the act. That must be difficult.
I mean, they showed the act towards the end, but it's like the build up. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
fantastic. And Candice Michelle just knocks it out of the park. I mean, she is good in that. It's fantastic. But anyway,
Sounds like you have a crush, man.
hey, do you even know who Candice Michelle is?
No, no.
Exactly. If you saw Candice Michelle, you'd have a crush too.
Yeah, it's interesting talking to different people. Different people have their different go tos as far as actors go. How old are you?
I'm 29.
29. Okay, so we aren't that far apart in age.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
God damn it! Like everything you've done, like I haven't done like even 1/10 of what you've done. Like holy shit! Like
Well, I mean, I compare myself to people who are younger than me, and sometimes, people I've gotten in a headspace where I'm like, oh, why is this person getting attention from blank and I haven't? But that's not, I feel like age isn't taken into account if you don't let it. I I started out very young. I remember when Ralph Tedesco first saw me, he was like, "You're Pat Shand?" And I mean, how old was I? I was 24, 23, and I had a fresh shaven face. I must have looked 16 years old. It was at New York Comic Con. And I remember I bought, because I was already writing the holiday issue and A Thousand Ways to Die. And I wanted to write more Grimm fairy tales. So I remember buying Raven Gregory's it was an exclusive cover of the Dream Eater saga, the finale, and the theater. And yeah, yeah. Very, very interesting times. But I looked young. I was young. I started out very young.
you see that's interesting because I did my first panel when I was 19 at Anime Cons, and
Yeah.
I'm going up there. I look like a kid, and people are like, "Yo, you're doing this by yourself?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why? Are you supposed to not do it by yourself?" And
Yeah.
like, it was weird. And then I just started asking people for interviews because I'm
Mm.
about 10 years in as a podcaster, and I would just ask people, and people would be like, "Oh, you seem professional," and they ask my age, and I'm like 22, and they're like, "What? You're 22? Like?" How does
Yeah.
a 22-year-old know how to do any of this? And I'm like, I have no idea how to do any of this. And like, I just started doing stuff, and I'm like, cool. And like, but yeah, no. I mean, I figured out the secrets to investing. That's all I figured out.
Yeah.
All my glory is pride. It's but every month I get my dividends, and I'm a happy camper.
Hey, well, that's good, I think.
But that's crazy that you're 35. So what were you saying before all this? Because I'm curious because obviously everybody has like their go-tos as far as actors, women they appreciate men that they appreciate.
Oh, you want to know who my go-tos are?
Oh, absolutely. This is the good shit now.
Let's see.
Beyond Raven.
I like Alexis Texas. I like
I like her.
Emily Lynn. I like goddamn I mean some classics. Who you encounter when you're first getting out there in these streets kind of sticks with you, you know? Like there's Naomi Russell, Gianna Michaels, Rachel Starr, you know, some real classic OGs. Now I'm like an Angela White a lot. She brings a strong performance. I think, you know, she brings some creativity to it.
I'm a big fan of Lauren Phillips.
Lauren Phillips, I don't think I know.
So Lauren Phillips is a very nice redhead. I like Lauren Phillips a lot.
I'm a very nice redhead.
What?
I'm a nice redhead, dude.
You're a step up. You're a step
Thank
up.
you.
I would definitely put you as a 10. She's like a 9.5.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I like some of the OnlyFans girls and stuff too. That kind of stuff, you know. Yeah, I just support. I support working individuals trying to express themselves out there in these streets.
I support any girl who wants to become an attorney because it's going to get to a point where I'm going to need a good criminal defense lawyer. So
Jesus, why?
It's a terrible joke. It's a terrible joke.
Dude. Yeah,
it's a terrible joke. I'm gonna need a good real estate lawyer is what I'm gonna need.
That's
and
good.
And a good tax evasion lawyer as well.
Tax evasion. He's saying it live.
Hey, we're in a conspiracy now. But no. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy Lauren Phillips. I enjoy Shelby Paris. I'm a little bit biased about her, and then some of the cosplayers are just very, very, very good and very good looking. So, you know, very, very, very interested in that. And
yeah, they're good. Maybe you can interview them.
I do. It's insane. It's like I'm all over the place. Like, but enough about that. Getting back to Cheeky, what was this like doing 100K? Because obviously, one of the things about Cheeky, which was fascinating, is that again, you know, very few people do 100,000 on Kickstarter who aren't, you know, I guess, you know, Scott Snyder or from Boom Studios or don't have a celebrity behind them. And you had none of that. And like, you're kind of like, I think one of the only ones who did it without celebrity status, if that makes any sense. And I think that it's partially because what you were saying is that people feel weird about talking about sex. They want to read it. It's an underserved market and it's a fun book. And it really, I feel like, gave you a lot of credibility. I'm not that you already had it, but it put you in that 100K club that now everybody knows who Pat Chan is.
I mean, that is true. It has it has changed things. I noticed how should I phrase this?
You want me to take a stab at it?
No. There's no way that you can know what I'm going to say. There's been a change in temperature for sure. But there's also been, I mean, I wasn't 1 day away from the campaign ending before someone was asking me for money. It is to publicly bring in that on one title when I'm doing many titles. To publicly bring in that made people feel that it made people feel comfortable to ask me for things they wouldn't normally ask me for, you know, because I think that they felt
that you're doing well enough that you can.
Yes. And also, here's the thing. I don't like this, but it's true. People see people in tiers. They put themselves in a certain tier. And for a long time, people saw me in a tier with them. And this made them sort of put me up into a different tier. Sort of like I see, you know, Brian Pulido does a campaign, he's going to hit a certain amount. And people see it as like this like elite club that you can get into. And once you get into, they see you as different, you know? And I don't see things that way. I could launch an all ages campaign and have it struggle hard because that market isn't on Kickstarter, you know? And there's this misunderstanding about Kickstarter and just comics in general that once you hit a certain level, you're in. And I think that I've definitely noticed a change in how people speak to me and speak about my campaigns. I will give advice to some of my buddies in comics And sometimes I'll feel, and they'll even explicitly say, that works for you because you're at this level and I'm at this level. And I don't think that way, And I think that I've been having successful campaigns for a long time. I've never had a failure on Kickstarter. I've had campaigns that have routinely hit between 20 to 40,000. And I know what I'm talking about Kickstarter. And I feel as if this new campaign, Cheeky, that that has hit the 100,000, it's a huge outlier, and it's definitely made people feel like they can see it as my my advice and my sort of guidance not being applicable to them anymore because I'm in a different league. But I'm not. I'm really not. I am Cheeky is in that league. I am creating on the same level as everybody else. Every idea that I bring, my network has expanded and your boy's net worth has expanded, right? But I really do I the knowledge that I've built is going to help every campaign, and every campaign is not going to be a Cheeky. Like right now, Destiny New York Volume 6, we're approaching 28 with 9 days left. I think that we'll hit in the maybe high 30s. I would like to go higher, but this is not $100,000 campaign. It could eventually be, and I'm working toward it getting higher. But yeah, it's changed how I'm seen in both a helpful way and a kind of way that I feel like people misinterpret.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I don't know why you're talking to me because I'll be very honest. I mean, I view you in that higher tier, but not because of the money you raised, but because I feel like your writing has gotten so much better and it's gotten tighter and it's gotten more creative. Because I've read a bunch of your Zenoscope stuff and I noticed the changes in Robinhood from the beginning
Yeah.
to what you're doing with Van Helsing. And so I know you more from that realm. I'm like, man, the writing has gotten better. The ideas have gotten better. The foreshadowing has gotten better. I didn't view it as a money thing, on your
Yeah.
Kickstarter. I viewed it as a skill thing, which
Yeah.
I think is different too. But I've also noticed just the popularity. And I'm like, but I also realized that I get the sense between our first interview and this interview that you're the same guy.
Oh yeah, I'm the same guy, and the reason that the writing probably seems better too because back then I used to get input from Raven, and not anymore. So,
But obviously, I mean, I view that your skill level has changed, but I don't think that's a tier issue as much
no,
as
yeah,
putting in the work. There are different people who are just tiered better. As there's brilliant writers, and there's people who are coming into figuring it out. And
yeah,
you but that's a skill problem and that's not a money problem. I think that's a big problem on Kickstarter is that people think because you raise money and you raise $100,000, you raise $50,000, your product is good. You know,
right.
I think that's a big misconception versus saying what's actually in the book.
Yeah, I mean, it could be for sure. I think that. Let me see. As far as growing as a writer, I think that it happens to everyone. Everyone changes. I think that some people kind of lose their way. I do know some writers whose stuff was really potent when they were younger, who their stuff now doesn't really hit the same in a negative way. They sort of have had their voice dulled by what I think is living in social media. But as far as me, there's an active change that I've made. Um, as a writer and as a reader, I was always I love I love the English language. I love playing with it. I love finding ways to say new things, restructuring things. So, my earlier scripts, I found myself sort of playing with dialogue in a way that I wouldn't do now. I was experimental in finding my writer voice back then, but now it comes with confidence. It comes with experience. Now I find the voice of the character in the book and I say the thing in the best possible way. And a lot of that is, you know, avoiding quips, avoiding things that could be said by any character, really making dialogue character specific. And also, this is a thing I ask myself a lot. I'll slave over dialogue. I will read a letter proof over and over and over again till I find the best way to say something. And a thing I ask myself all the time is this character saying this for plot reasons only, or is this character, would this character be saying it this way? And a lot of the times, the first run through, the dialogue is facilitating the movement of the story and the character arcs. Um, my second and third and fourth passes are often making the characters lie more, making the characters less straightforward, making them not say what is on their mind, and still finding a way to sort of have the undercurrent of story pull them along. And that sort of pulling back on voice has been major for me as far as changes to my style goes.
No, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, I've gone through evolution. If you saw my first 50 interviews, man, was I a stiff kid on a mic. I
Yeah.
was stiff and I was not the way I was. And the best thing I ever did was go live in
Yeah.
COVID. And I did it to be altruistic, where all these wrestlers were getting fucked over because all their bookings were canceled. I said, hey, look, let me get a wrestler on. Maybe we could sell a few shirts for them. Maybe it'll be 30, 40 bucks.
Yeah.
And then started going into a whole different direction. I got a few people who were, going to the rebound. Privileged in that regard. Got no problem, got lucky and was in the right place at the right time. And
Yeah.
I guess blessed/privileged is a good way to put it. I get it about evolution. Evolution is complicated. And man, if you listen to those first 50, it's bad. It's not a bad interview. It's just that I was finding my voice as an entity. And I tell new podcasts when they come up, you're going to struggle for your first 10 to 20. But that struggle is going to help you figure out where you want to be. Took me 50.
Right.
But
No, I mean that's true of all things. Like, ask any writer how they look back at their first stories. They're gonna be harsher on them than a reader is, for sure. I mean, for example, this is true. Raven called me the other day and he told me that he read Return to Wonderland and he didn't like it anymore. And and the same is true for my stuff. Like, I'll look back and I'll read certain things and I will see, mostly what I'll see is what I would change and how I would change it. But it isn't necessarily true that it's bad. It's just not who you are now. Now, in Raven's case, he's right. It's bad, right? But like with my shit, it's just not who I am now.
oh man, I can't listen to my first 50 episodes. I cringe. I'm like, I cry. I get like 5 minutes in, like it's terrible. It's just terrible. Like I'm the worst. Like
I
I'm like,
mean,
oh my God, I asked
hearing
that
your
question.
a person hearing their own voice, it's hard. That's hard. I struggle with that myself where I've done podcasts, I've had my own podcast, and I'll go back to edit it or I'll catch an old episode, and it's hard sometimes to sit through it. Hopefully, um it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, oh man, like the first 50, I'm like, oh my God, what a dumb, like asshole I was. I asked that question. How stupid could I be? Like, and like I'm like the worst. I'm like, I said that. How stupid can I be? And like, I edited like the early stuff. And I'm like, even still, I'm like,
Mm.
how dumb could I be to ask that question? Like, I'm a young like kid doing this. Oh, it's just terrible. And like, even now when I listen to it, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm in pain. Like it's just terrible. Like I'm 10 minutes in and I'm like, I gotta put it down. It's just terrible.
That's how it is looking at the old stuff for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so apparently though, Cheeky did really well. Obviously, 100K, which is crazy. But good. It means that people want it, people like it. I would imagine that people were really stoked to get it.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be wild to deliver it. That's gonna be intense. Yeah.
This is what assistants are for,
I mean, I should have one. Yeah.
and
For
staff
this, I
and
think.
Starbucks, all in that order.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but obviously there's a lot of stuff, and then Prison Witch is crazy too. I know I got you a backer for all three of those books, so I'm happy
Yeah.
about that. Um, but yeah, Prison Witch is great too, and obviously I'm not going to push
Thanks.
too much on that. But yeah, what's going on with you in Zenoscope? Because I'm a little bit out of the loop. I'm taking like a 2-month break from Zenoscope. I just spent a lot of money with them. I'm not very happy about that, nor is my mom very happy with me about that. Like half my paycheck is gone.
Well,
I have a problem. The other half is in my Lego Ferrari.
Zenoscope has that effect. Their deals are good. Their books are collectible, and they have the single issues that go to comic shops to read. Awesome stuff. The collectible covers, also such a smart way to tap into that market. How they do it with the live streams with Jason, with Casey and Noah. It's all really smart. As far as what I'm doing with Zenoscope now, my main title with them is Van Helsing, and that's my ongoing run. I came back on Van Helsing in mid 2021, and my run is ongoing. We're wrapping up the current arc in the beginning of next year and getting into the next one soon after that. I'm also doing books like right now I'm doing a crossover between Gretel and Hellchild, and yeah.
Yeah, and I know because I sell a lot of Zenoscope books, and I make good money on it. I got no problem admitting that. I make really good money on it, to be very honest.
Yeah, so why you said that you spend the money if you're gonna make money back on it?
Because I deploy and then it like takes like 2 months, and she's just not happy with me.
Gotcha.
I'm scared of my mom.
I mean, I don't know her, so maybe you have a right to be. Who knows? Who knows?
She doesn't like it, and then when she realizes that I sell a book that I bought for like $25 for 100, she's like, "Oh, good job, son." She's like,
Yeah.
"Why'd you spend $25?" She yells at me for like an hour, and then later on, when I sell for 100, she's like, "Good job."
Yeah.
And it's a weird dynamic. It's like a whole cycle. And then I keep the ones that like are fun, and it's just great. I mean, it's whatever. That Paul Green pack from like literally like 5 weeks ago is worth like $500. It's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Crazy.
I used to date a girl who got upset about the nude covers. That was, man. It was for Wizard World Philly, I think. They did this wraparound cover for Unleashed, and it was, I think, like 4 or 5 characters all naked. I think it was Ebas who drew it. And Matt Rogers, who worked as editor at the time, he brought over a stack of 10 for me to sign. And I remember seeing her looking like, and when we got home that night, she was crying and she said, "How long is your exclusive contract with Zenoscope? How long are you staff writer for?" And I was like, I mean, I'm toward the beginning of it, like fuck, dude, like yeah, it was an interesting thing. The covers, they're collectible. They aren't for everyone, I guess. That they pissed my ex off, but
I said this to Joe when he was on my show, and what I said to Joe is I said Zenoscope solved the problem that Top Cow left, where Top Cow was that bad girl art, and then obviously the collapse in the '90s, late '90s happened, and then for a while there was no bad girl art, and Zenoscope came up, and they solved that problem, and I still think they've solved that problem in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like Zenoscope is a little bit of Top Cow's baby, the way I describe it.
I mean, the
As far as bad girl art goes.
Yeah, as far as like comic book history, I don't know much about like the good girl, bad girl art from the past, but just looking at the market and how Zenoscope does the exclusives, they had to be the greatest exclusive cover company of all time. I feel like there's really no comparison except
There's one. There's only
Coffin
one.
Comics.
J. Scott Campbell, his own exclusive line is up with Zenescope
How
because
how many stories does he have though?
it's only his store on his
No, I mean
website.
stories though. I'm saying like the fact that Zenoscope has a shared universe just really puts it over the edge for me. You know, it's
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair
yeah
enough on that.
yeah
I
they
mean, just on a cover level, J.
yeah
Scott Campbell produces just as much as Zenescope for his own store, but that's a
yeah
different discussion for a different day.
yeah
But
and
I
like
agree
I
with
think that what Brian Pulido does with Coffin Comics is also so amazing. You know, the collectability, the savviness of Brian is it's amazing. But yeah, it taps people don't understand it though. People don't look and understand it as a market. They don't understand it as a collectible. So yeah,
it's like baseball cards. People don't understand what Zenescope has done and how it has become a commodity.
yeah,
And I try to explain it to people. Like my dad gets it, my mom gets it a little bit, but my dad gets it more.
yeah,
And they're a commodity and they sell. Like I buy a book for 25 bucks and then I sell for 200.
yeah,
And it's like people are like, and then people are saying this is a great deal because it's a rare book. And
yeah.
so it's really complicated, I feel. But also I think some people get it. I think people get it with Brian Pulido as well. And I think that, there's something to be said about it. And this is only getting bigger.
Yeah, and you know, some people have a bad impression of the art. Um, I've dated women who were 100% for it. Some who didn't like it. My wife Amy, she's good with it. You know, yeah, but it's definitely always been a discussion. You know, it's
So, and I also think that though that there's been a change in society with Zenoscope. I think 2005 it was different than 2015, and
yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
I think society has become more accustomed to it. I think that playboy is not such a dirty word. Hustler is not such a dirty word anymore. I'm not saying you go into your office at work and you put hustler on your desk. That's not what I'm saying. But if you are out somewhere and the topic of hustler comes up, I think it's not as bad as it used to be.
yeah. I think so too. That's definitely true. Um, there was a time too, things kind of crescendoed, I think, around 2013, 14. There was the conversation about Milo Manara and the Spider Woman cover. There was this real big final push back against like cheesecake style covers in the mid 2010s. But it feels over to me now. It feels like people don't really make those kind of controversies anymore. It feels like people have kind of settled into that, which is it's cool. People have found other controversies to really dig into, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Like Lucifer in Denver.
that I don't know what that is.
It's one of these conspiracy theories that's just out there, but like it's ridiculous that like there's like a demon like blue horse like in the Denver airport. It's a
Oh,
crazy one. It's a fun one though to talk about, but I digress.
right.
I but just it's a bad joke. You should know this because it's a Zenoscope thing. They did a whole like comic book on it.
Oh
Like
yeah, he's breastfeeding on his leg. Like yeah, he was taken from his mom too soon. We rescued him, and he always to comfort himself. He climbs in my arms and he feeds himself and needs like it's a breast on his own leg.
So anyway, going into pretty much all of this, and obviously we got a lot of stuff going on with Zenoscope, but I do want to go back to Destiny New York because we got a lot of cool stuff happening with it. Obviously we got this cover right here
Yep.
that's out there. That's not that's like what cover A I want to say.
Hey, that's the main cover. That is by Eliza Romboli. She was the main series artist for volumes 3 and 4.
And then you got this one right here, which is sort of cover B.
Yes, that is our variant by Jen St. Ange. We do a line of variants with her on all of our titles all this year, going into 2013 for all Space Between titles. And this is, I think, number 3 or 4. of that line.
And then I'm not too sure who did this cover,
That's
but
Ivan Tao, dude.
oh,
That's
you were gonna ruin the joke. You just had to ruin my joke.
oh, you didn't warn me. You didn't warn me it was a bit.
Oh, I love Ivan.
Well, back it up, do it anyway.
No. It's all good. It's good. I love this cover though because it's that sort of negative space Ivan Tao cover. I feel, but
yeah, that's what we spoke about. Yeah,
in
Ivan and I spoke about that, about doing it as a negative space cover. That those tend to really work for him. And I'll say this too. No one else knows this yet, but that's our Logan cover for Volume 6. Ivan is doing a Lilith cover that will be the mirror of this. With this cover, she's kind of angelic. We'll do a sort of devilish Lilith cover for Volume 7, and when you put them together, they'll be facing one another.
That's a nice touch. That's a nice touch right there.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
But that's one of the things that I like is that obviously Ivan is just a great artist. Cutting his teeth in Zenoscope, he had a great cover. And I was fortunate enough that I got to interview him too. And he's just one of the nicest people in comics.
His art is out of this world, dude. He's I'm gonna be working with him as much as possible. Got some real good stuff coming up from him. He's great.
At some point, I'm entering the exclusive game with something coming up soon. So at some point, I'll have maybe 6 exclusive covers for my eBay store. I'm eyeing Ivan Tao, and Ivan Tao is going to be worth every penny that I pay him.
Why don't you have him draw a cocktail for the cards? Draw a negative space Jack and Coke. Okay.
I'll do that if you write the recipe for it.
That'd be cool. I would say maybe take an orange, right? Slice a little orange, kind of take a glass, violate the glass with the orange, just a little bit, a little swirl, pour in 3 shots of Jack, and then just crack a Coke open next to it, and then just serve it.
Oh my god, that'd be great. That'd be I'll just put the little thing, Pat Chen. Right at the bottom.
Just crack the Coke next to it so it has the air of Coke, but it's really just full Jack.
It's just it'll be the greatest card. It'll be a stretch goal if I do it on Kickstarter.
Yeah. That'd be good.
That's hilarious in so many ways. I should make Ralph write a cocktail too. That'd be funny.
I bet he would do a good one. He's the real classy gentleman. Ralph Tedesco.
And so there's that, and then obviously there's a bunch of other stuff where pretty much all of the covers are here.
Yeah. We have Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. You can get all that. You can catch up. You could do our spinoffs. You could do it all.
I'm pretty sure this campaign is going to make me broke. I'm going to have to break it to my mom tomorrow, very, very slowly.
Dive in.
This whole week's going to mess me up. I legitimately, in the last 2 weeks, I probably spent $3,000, which is crazy.
That is crazy, but dive in, get those cards while you can too, because the cards that are as add-ons, we did, we made all the convention cards from the past available as add-ons too. So if you get those, when we actually do the starter decks, I'm going to open up either a Discord or a Slack or something, maybe a Facebook group that people can trade the cards on or sell the cards. And I think that the cards that we're doing now will end up having a good amount of value when we actually bring the game to fruition.
And then there's this too, which is pretty much, the Prison Witch trilogy, the adult line, the Clonsters series, which I don't know much about that one.
That is our all ages title. It's called Clonsters. It is a world about little monsters made of clay, and it is sort of like our real monsters with that really 90s cartoon vibe.
And then there's I think Afterglow, I want to say, and there's a few others that I'm just missing here, because I'm lazy. But you have a lot of titles pretty much.
I do. I sure do. You can get them all. Destiny New York Volume 6. That's tinyurl.com/DestinyNY6. The number 6. Do it right now, or I'll.
Then let me ask you a question. Stretch goals. What is stretch goals looking like?
Stretch goals. We the first one unlocked the Ivan Tao cover as an add-on. That was previously not in the campaign, but once that was unlocked, you can then add that cover onto your order. then each of the next 3 stretch goals each add a story to the book. So one adds a story featuring Meadow, one a story with Lilith, and the final one will be a Trinity story, which will be drawn by Larry Watts, who was my Robin Hood co-conspirator back in the day on the trilogy.
It's going some old school Zenescope, hey?
Always.
And so obviously, I mean, and all the cards are add-ons that you can be picked up that may have value, obviously going forward and all that stuff. And a lot of fun stuff's happening. And also, I know that book plates as well, stuff like that. So I mean, anything that you pretty much want. I think there's like a Logan print, plus a book is in there, which I think is this right here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is the print. That's going to be printed on a postcard, kind of like this. It'll be a postcard like that. And that's how we've been doing our prints, because I find the floppier prints that are more on paper, those tend to get damaged more easily. I think a nice sturdy postcard is a bit better. And plus, as far as collecting these kind of things, there are postcard books that you can put these in. So if someone were to collect the full set of postcards, they could do that as well.
Yeah, I might be an expert in that too, because my mom wrote the book on cocktails, comparing it to postcards, called Cocktails Across America.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool. It's a great book. You should go buy it on Amazon. It's like $16. But anyway. Yeah. So that's pretty much everything. I know that there's digital, physical, pretty much anything anybody wants, they can get from your company. And if there's not something on there that's in your company and you have it and somebody asks, I'm sure that it can be arranged.
It can. And if you can't get it through Destiny New York Volume 6, I'm going to have 2 more Kickstarters this year. I'm launching on actually really soon. It's a bit sooner than I wanted. It's kind of crammed together because I wanted to do these throughout the year, but printing was a nightmare. I'm doing October 21st. I'm launching the next spinoff. It's called MMMA, Mixed Magical Martial Arts. That is a sports and fantasy mashup. And then on December 6th, I'm launching Smoke Weed See the Future Volume 2. And that'll close the year out. And all those campaigns, you can get all the stuff, any of the add-ons, except the campaign exclusive cards. Those will be available later after this campaign ships out. But all the books, they can be yours at any point to a Space Between Entertainment Kickstarter, goddammit.
Yeah, and obviously I'm going to give you a chance to promote yourself. Obviously, a lot of stuff. Zenescope. If you want to go the Zenescope route, that's out there. If you want to go Space in Between Entertainment, that route. If you want to go something else, I don't know what else you got. If you want to go to a weird con in Jersey in 2 weeks from now, go say hi to Pat. I'm sure that he's friendly. So there you go. Or maybe he's not friendly. I don't know. But it'll be fun. I guarantee you Lauren Phillips will be there. She's a Jersey girl.
Well, shout to her. So will Alexis, Texas. So shout to her. Alexis.
Maybe I'll show up too. Who knows?
Maybe, dude. But yeah, I'll be there with Space Between Entertainment. Selling Thursday. Cheeky will not be out yet. Cheeky is going to be printed toward the end of the year. But yeah, Space Between at Exotica, at New York Comic Con, at Baltimore Comic Con, at Long Island Comic Expo this year as well. And those will be the final 4 cons of the year. It's been a crazy year. That's all I got, dude.
Well, that's great. That's great. And obviously, I'm pretty sure if you type in Pat Chan on the internet, you will find Pat Chan. Also, go check out my awesome reel that I made of Pat Chan on my Instagram. So go check that out, everybody. It's great. But I'm going to promote myself really quickly. Obviously, I appreciate everybody who likes this show, shares this show, checks it out. I also appreciate subscribing on YouTube, Facebook, and anywhere else where this episode airs and is live and all that fun stuff. Furthermore, if you do like what I'm doing here, you can always buy me a coffee. It is not necessary. I appreciate support because you have to support indie. And I don't really care if you like this show, please feel free to support it. If you don't like the show, don't worry about it. But you should support what you like. And that means supporting financially. Furthermore, towards the back end of October, I do have my comic book investing class coming. So if you want to learn the basics of comic book investing, I tend to do all right with it. I'm having a crazy year on eBay and in private sales, my craziest year as of yet. So if you want to learn the basics and the fundamentals, obviously you can take my class. It's going to be about $40 for 18 to 22 hours. I'm actually recording the third part of the class, which means we will be at 75% by the end of the week. Unfortunately, it would have been done already, except my Mac had a problem, which is getting fixed on Thursday. So, it's going to be a little bit later, but again, it's going to be $40, which I think is a fair price. And I can tell you this, I can't tell you how much money you'll make, but what I can tell you is that you will at least be educated in this space. And so on that note, I got nothing else. All my social media is Pop Anime Comics. Hit me up. And on that note, I'm going to give Pat Shan the final word.
Cool. Yeah. My social is at Pat Shan for me, at Space Between Ent for my company. We do Destiny New York, Prison Witch. We do goddamn Thirsty, Cheeky, a bunch of great stuff. I'm currently working on a Van Helsing run for Zenescope. We do every other month we do a new issue of Van Helsing. What else? I got Gangster Ass Barista launching from Black Mask Studios in November. I have As of the Barbed coming from Scout Comics. They put out #1 a couple of weeks back, and they forgot to print the lettering on the second half of the issue. So that's going back to print. It's coming out again. #1 will be reissued when #2 is out. Every store that got the issue is going to get the issue for free again. So hopefully every customer who bought it will get a new copy, and they won't think that I'm fucking insane for having a book with half dialogue and then half absolutely nothing except beautiful art, but no dialogue, no plot clarity, nothing. I saw some reviews on YouTube, people talking about, oh yeah, the story made no sense. No fucking shit, it made no sense. I mean, to me, reading it, it's obviously a mistake, but a lot of people didn't think so. So that'll be reissued. And then I have a lot more to talk about coming into 2023. But for now, the focus is the end of 2022, heading into New York Comic Con. Not ready for it yet. Gonna have to be ready in about less than 35 hours or so. So it's grind time, dude. It's grind time.
Well, I feel you. I'm sitting this one out because I just started a new job. So, and I respect anybody who does New York Comic Con because I did it once as a fan, and
yeah,
it's a beast. It's a beast.
It's a beast.
Anyway.
I've been going for a long time, and it's time to go back. We gotta go back, dude. Let's go.
Go big or go home, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, I think that's a perfect place to end, everybody, and that is a wrap.